Hydroplane racing combines three elements: speed, water, and technology. It's the third element, the technology, that's constantly pushing this sport to the limits. The driver's always looking towards the future. This week, the past, the present, and the future merge as the Hydros revisit the grand old stomping ground of Madison, Indiana, one of the sport's most historic and popular venues. Hydros racing from the Hoosier State is next. Welcome to ESPN Speed World coverage of the 1999 Ralph's Hydros Thunder Tour presented by Las Vegas. Now entering its 49th year of racing hydroplanes on the Ohio River, we welcome you to Madison, Indiana for the Jasper Indiana Governor's Cup and the Madison Regatta. Hi everyone, Rich Hollenberg here, joined as always by Steve Montgomery. And Steve, we're in the fourth event of the 99 Hydro season, and we've seen the competition just get tougher.
Well, it tends to happen every year. The Budweiser team comes out of their Seattle shop with all the combinations they're going to need for the entire season in their computer, and they come out looking very good, and they win big early on. Now, they'll continue to win, but the other teams have been learning on the water in our first three events what the Budweiser team already knew. The qualifying here was very close. The competition now will get tighter and tighter the rest of the season.
Another thing that makes the competition tighter is the importance of the clock start. We've seen that the whole season long.
First event of the year, we saw Villwock make a less than perfect start. Hanauer won the race. Last week in Evansville, Hanauer over the line by 5/100ths of a second when he appeared to have the final under control. The clock starts are very critical here.
Speaking of starts, we're just getting started from Madison, Indiana. The Jasper Indiana Governor's Cup is coming up next. Hydros 99 Racing on ESPN Speed World. Steve, let's take a look at qualifying, and the first one we'll look at is rookie Greg Hopp, who qualified fifth.
145 miles per hour, our candidate for Rookie of the Year. Good, solid qualifying effort for the youngster.
And then there's the veteran, the Maverick, Mitch Evans in his Appian Geronimo.
Still looking for the kind of speed he had last year. Qualified 7th, just under 142.
The U2 boat and Jim Harvey Motorsports, piloted by Steve David, coming in qualifying 4th.
A brand new boat for Steve this year, finally getting used to the new design, Rich.
And here we see Chip Hanauer in the U100 Miss Pico having a great return to the sport.
Good speed, 152.7. The bad news is Dave Villwock and the Budweiser considerably faster.
The Miss Madison, the boat that everyone here in Madison, Indiana has a vested interest in, did not qualify but will run on a commissioner's exemption. Your number one qualifier, Miss Budweiser, Dave Villwock, won't be in lane 1 at all today. Steve's with Dave.
Budweiser driver Dave Villwock joins us in the rescue boat for a tour of the race course here at Madison. Dave, it's a race course you've been on for 6 years now. From the shore, the water and the race course always look about the same, but the drivers tell me the conditions really change a lot.
It sure does. It always looks beautiful from the shore, but when the wind comes against the current and the river's running at a lot of speed or current, conditions get horrible down in the first turn.
We're going to go down there and take a look and have you take us on around the race course, okay?
I'd be happy to do it. Well, here we are in Madison. It's a very different course, and everything else we've been on this year is very long, almost a mile in each direction, and the tightest turns in the whole circuit that we're on. That coupled with some conditions make it very, very difficult. Right here, right behind us is the start line. And because the straightaways are so long, we'll be at a very high rate of speed right here. We'll be running right here at this point at the start of a race about 185 to 190 miles an hour, and that's tremendous speed for the start of the race. Lane 1's a tough place to be here. It's the roughest. The water curls the highest right there. Luckily, they've outlawed me from that lane in this race, so I'm real happy about that as we go into race day. So we're going to see how everybody else jockeys for position and what lane they choose, but this is where a lot of the race is going to happen, right here in the first turn in the rough water here on the Ohio River. Now we've made it out of the exit pit of the first turn. Thank goodness. We're on our way down the long, long straightaway up, and we're going to run underneath the bridge. So it's going to be tough. The wind may be blowing into our face. It may be blowing at our tail, but whichever direction it is, there's going to be a lot of rip action coming off the sandbars that are just off to our right here. Going to make it tough, but again, another obstacle that you don't see from the shore. Right here was just about the place that Steve Reynolds crashed the 7-Eleven. There's a lot of roller action, as you can see, and that happens in a really bad place just at the time when we're going right underneath the bridge, and it's going to be tight here with 5 of my friends trying to get through here all at the same time. It's going to be a little more difficult. There's a lot of wind action, a little bit of Venturi action, some wave action off the pillars, all coming together at the same time. Another very different condition here in Madison. We've just made it by the apex of the tightest turn that we race on in our whole entire circuit in some of the roughest water. And if we're real lucky, we're going to be aimed right at that pillar behind me. It's a pretty intimidating look, particularly if you're in lane 2, 3, or 4, and that's where most of us are going to be all weekend long. It's huge, it's really solid, and you know it's not something you want to hit. Right here, we've made it around the 2 turns. We've made it by the bridge twice. Now we're looking for speed. Once again, to start all over again, we're trying to fly the boat as high as we possibly can and get as much speed as we can down this long, long straightaway. Finish up the lap. If we do everything perfect, we're going to get here and they're going to give us a checkered flag.
Thank you, Mr. Villwock. Dave mentioned he's outlawed from the first lane. That's because he has consecutive wins coming into Madison in both Evansville and Barry. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Jasper, Indiana Governor's Cup is brought to you by Las Vegas. Anything can happen and usually does when it comes to special events. By Ralph's, first in savings, first in Southern California. And by O'Doul's non-alcoholic brew. It's what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer. Welcome back. Movie making going on here this weekend. Hydro's going Hollywood. They're making a movie about hydroplane racing.
Talk about your local favorites. You got to keep an eye on Miss Madison here this weekend. The 13,000 citizens of this community all own a piece of this operation. The crew, all volunteers. They rejoined us for the event in Barrie, Ontario, ended up upside down in the lake, but until that point, the hull, the engines, new driver Todd Yarling from nearby Hanover, Indiana, had all looked very, very good. This all-volunteer operation would be very happy with a podium finish, but in boat racing, anything can happen.
Steve, can happen and usually does. Not a great start for Todd Yarling.
They haven't had quite the speed that they had before the accident in Barrie, Ontario. They're still kind of recovering, Rich, from the flip up there.
Todd was running far back from the leader, but the Madison's still running well.
The volunteer crew doing a great job with this boat. Originally built for piston power, converted some years ago by Mike Hansen. A third-place finish here in Heat 1A.
Word out of Miss Madison's camp is they aren't too much concerned with where they finished in Heat 1A. It's just that they got the boat to go around the water here on the Ohio. Todd Yarling telling me a little bit after the race that they're just going to do some minor tinkering on the engine, try and up the RPMs just a little bit. But like I said, they're just happy that the boat's out on the water and running. And things didn't get much better for Miss Madison going into Heat 2, Steve.
Well, you see Chip Hanauer and the Miss Pico flying by Todd Yarling and Miss Madison, but hey, Chip's going to go by a lot of people this season. Nothing really to be ashamed of there. The boat is performing. They appear to have most of the repairs necessary to make it competitive after their accident up in Barrie, Ontario. And of course, Todd Yarling becoming a local hero. A second-place finish here, not bad.
2 good, strong finishes by Miss Madison and Todd Yarling in their first 2 heats of the day means this. They get a front-line start going into Heat 3. What that translates to is the potential for a very good finish, at least a second or a third in Heat 3, which means that ultimately they will have a great shot at making it into the finals.
Chip Hanauer and Fred Leland's Miss Pico has not been able to put up qualifying speeds close to Dave Villwock's and Miss Budweiser, but then who has? The important thing is that the boat and driver in competition have been very competitive. They have been able to race with the Miss Budweiser, particularly when Hanauer gets a good start. And that is something he has done incredibly well for a guy who was out of the sport 3 years. Now, last week he jumped the gun by about 15 feet in the final heat in Evansville. That's 5/100ths of a second over the line. It may have cost him a victory. Now, Miss Pico and Hanauer appear ready to race the Red Rocket. Should make for a great day of competition.
Heat 1B action, and it's Miss Pico kind of laying in the weeds at the start.
Chip being a little bit conservative there as well. He should be feeling he has the boat speed to take the lead. This is a lap later going into the first turn, and you can see he is well ahead of the other 2 boats, pretty much cruising to a victory here in Heat 1B. Chip Hanauer and the Miss Pico.
Miss Pico crew chief Ken Dryden working on the prop, but that prop is going to be used in the finals. As for the boat that they ran in Heat 1B, they're going to keep everything the same going into Heat 2. And in Heat 2, it was another great start, and once again out to an early lead for Chip.
From our O'Doul's Eye in the Sky, you see the big lead that Chip had over Mike Hansen in the white boat. And we should mention, Rich, because of the tightness of the course here, more sections, fewer boats. Only 3 boats drawn into this heat. Mark Webber and the York International couldn't answer the bell, which would cost him some points. Hanauer pretty much cruising to victory here and scoring 400 very valuable points in Heat 2B.
Recent history tells us we don't see your best stuff until the final heat, but it's looking pretty good.
That's what I tell the crew. I don't see the best stuff till the final heat, so hopefully they can work a little magic again, but we have another elimination to go before that.
2 for 2 in the first 2 heats of the day for Miss Pico and Chip Hanauer, and that means they are a virtual lock to make it into the finals. They are considering making changes, however, between Heats 2 and Heat 3. The crew says it all depends on who they draw for that next heat.
For the Budweiser racing team, it's been business as usual here in 1999, and that means going very fast in qualifying and racing, winning heats, winning events, and amassing a lot of national high points. The key for this team, as with all the teams up and down the pit area, the starts. So far in 99, 12 heat starts for Dave Villwock. 10 of them have been perfect and have resulted in victories. The 2 that weren't so good cost him. One in the final heat at Lake Havasu gave the victory to Chip Hanauer. Another one last week in Evansville, where he was early, cost him a heat victory. Villwock is usually right on time at the start, and when he is, the rest of the field is racing for second place.
Steve, the third section of Heat 1, Heat 1C, is where Miss Budweiser was, and Steve David on the outside giving him a run for his money.
But I was standing with Steve David's crew, and right about here, one of them said goodbye because they knew the Budweiser right there would out-accelerate their boat, and he certainly did.
From the O'Doul's Eye in the Sky, you see, just like Chip Hanauer in his heats, Dave Villwock building a huge lead and really cruising very easily to victory in 1C, but Steve, it did come with a minor cost. A broken rudder on Miss Budweiser in Heat 1C was about the only problem this boat had. Dave Villwock very happy with the way the boat ran. A first-place finish is the result. But here is that broken rudder that they're working on right now. They changed it out. That's the only change they're making going into Heat 2. And in Heat 2, we saw earlier that Steve David running very well early with the Budweiser, kind of like a chihuahua nipping at his heels.
But when you are beside Dave Villwock and Miss Budweiser and he puts the hammer down, you're going to see tailbones and elbows and rooster tails and a red boat leaving the area. They are simply head and shoulders above the competition right now. But as I said earlier, it's catching them. It's creeping up a bit, and Dave Villwock can feel the competition gaining a little on it.
Miss Budweiser running in Heat 1C and in Heat 2A, so a very short layoff for Dave, but obviously not hurting him. He wins his second consecutive heat of the day.
Now, you could take it easy in the third heat and make the final, but that's probably not in the cards, huh?
No, that's not how we do things. We're going for the win every time, and if we crash, we crash. If we do well, we do well, but at least we tried.
The Miss Budweiser crew joked after Heat 2 that they're not going to change anything because it's too darn hot to change anything right now. This crew tells the truth, but the truth of the matter is they don't have to change anything. 2 wins in the first 2 heats of the day means that they are a virtual lock for the finals, regardless of what happens in Heat 3. Nevertheless, you know Miss Budweiser and Dave Villwock are going to go full throttle in the next heat. Chip Hanauer looking forward to Heat 3A coming up. We will show you that when ESPN Speed World coverage of Hydros Racing continues. Welcome back to Speed World. Ralph's Thunder Tour presented by Las Vegas. The Hydros hitting Madison, Indiana, and there is the crew from the Miss Madison getting ready to start Heat 3A, and it's a star-studded field with the Miss Budweiser, Miss Pico, and the York International in this heat.
Dave Villwock won the battle for the inside, settled into lane 2. Remember, he's not allowed in lane 1. That put the Pico out in lane 3. Mike Hansen and Jones racing in lane 4. And the local hero, Todd Yarling, in lane 5. Pretty tough draw here. Mark Webber and the York International down on points a little bit. They are a trailer boat. They have to be back a couple of rooster tails at the start. Here we come now under the bridge, Rich. That's a beautiful sight from our O'Doul's Eye in the Sky. Cruising easily here about 130 miles an hour and just about to put the hammer down.
And you can hear those engines revving as they get to the start-finish line. And it looks like it is a clean start, and you can see it from our O'Doul's Eye in the Sky. There's the battle for first and second, as it has been all year. Miss Budweiser and Miss Pico as they go into turn 1.
Remember again, Rich, first time the new rule has been invoked. Dave Villwock and the Budweiser winning 2 consecutive events. Now they are not allowed in lane 1 at any time today. And you can see here from our O'Doul's eye in the sky, once again, he might not need it. He has pretty good control here after the first half lap. He is inside Chip Hanauer and the Pico. The Pico is really going to have to hustle to get around the red boat on these tight turns.
And speaking of tight turns, this is what Dave Villwock himself explained to us as probably the toughest part of the course, going under the bridge and then making the turn and then going back around to the bridge once again. Miss Pico still trailing Miss Budweiser, and even though the Bud's not in lane 1, doesn't seem to be having many problems.
Here comes Mike Hansen going by our camera in the Jones Racing U9, and coming by in 4th place is Todd Yarling in the Miss Madison. A little surprising to see him way back there. They ran better when they debuted earlier in the season.
Miss Budweiser holds on to lead as they cross the pit area, and Miss Pico trailing behind, but Dave Villwock cannot rest on his laurels right now because Miss Pico has traditionally, this season so far at least, Steve, run better as the day goes on.
If you didn't know better, you'd use words like sandbagging, but they seem to come up with a combination for the final heat. Looks like a whole different race boat, and I'm sure Dave Villwock has that in his mind right now as he has a nice 2 rooster tail lead as they go under the only bridge on the entire UHRA circuit. And believe me, as Dave Villwock told us earlier, you want to make a nice clean shot between those big cement pillars.
Average speed you saw there on lap 1, just a little bit above 146 miles an hour, but going into the turns is where things slow down. Chip Hanauer and the rest of the crew are going to be picking the speed up as they head into this straightaway, getting upwards of 185, 190 miles an hour.
And remember, to reach an average speed near 150 miles per hour, the part of the race course where the red boat is right now, you have to be doing nearly 200 miles per hour in very rough water. And you can see Villwock and the Bud walking down the front straightaway. The Pico 3 or 4 rooster tails back now.
Bud in first, Pico in second, and now we're going to take a look at the race for third, which is turning out to be a real good race. The York International, which was the trailer boat, having a very difficult day so far in Madison, but sneaking up on the competition from behind.
He has the inside on Mike Jones in the white boat. He may be able to make a move from there. And we go back to our leader, Dave Villwock, and the Miss Budweiser on his way to another heat victory, and Rich, another very valuable 400 national high points.
And every time you talk to the Miss Budweiser camp, whether it's Mark Smith, the crew chief, or Bernie Little, the owner, or Dave Villwock himself, they always say it's all about scoring those points. They're looking for the high points win.
Particularly when you're racing the boat in second place, because when you score 400, the most he can get is 300, and you pick up 100 points that he'll never get back. So it's very important for the hot boats to beat each other when they match up. Here's the checkered flag now for Dave Villwock and the Miss Budweiser. Bernie and Jane Little and the Bud crew celebrating on the dock, something they do a lot of.
And Steve, that's a hat trick for the Budweiser crew. 3 wins in the 3 heats today in Madison. Chip Hanauer and the Miss Pico team going to have to settle for second place. And Steve, he's cutting into the infield after the checkered flag.
He did not complete the lap. Of course, he has finished the race, but he wants to get over there with Villwock and let him know what he thought about that heat, apparently.
Miss Budweiser in first, Pico in second, followed by Jones Racing, Miss Madison, and the York International in 5th. And now we understand that the Miss Pico team is upset with the way that Dave Villwock drove that race. Ken Dryden on the right of your screen, the crew chief for Miss Pico, talking to a driver's rep. They're arguing that Dave Villwock used lane 1 when in fact he wasn't allowed to. He lost that complaint. Here's Steve with Chip.
Aside from the conversation about who should be in what lane, I got a feeling you didn't show us everything you had there.
Try not to. We try to wait for the final. It's the final where they issue the check. So hopefully we'll have a little something for the final.
You wonder if he has something in his bag of tricks. He's going to have to come up with something big to catch Dave Villwock. Welcome back to Ralph's Thunder Tour, presented by Las Vegas. The Jasper, Indiana Governor's Cup from Madison, Indiana. It's a small enclave, you can call it, Steve, of 13,000, but when regatta weekend rolls around, it bulges to 100,000, and despite temperatures in the triple digits, they still showed up in force.
Steve David and Jim Harvey already have 300 more national high points than they had when they left Evansville last week after apparently failing to make the final heat. The officials who ruled they had oversped the turbine, that's called an N2 violation in this sport, have now changed their minds. They feel it was a computer and printer malfunction. They have received an apology and the 300 points and find out, in fact, they should have been in the final heat last week. But even better news, it means that the combination they ran, which was very, very fast, is legal. They qualified well here in Madison and are looking forward to a good day for Jim Harvey Motorsports.
Steve, when you look up aggressive hydroplane driver in the dictionary, there's a picture of Steve David, and from our old duel's eye in the sky, you see David being aggressive right at the start of Heat 1.
Earlier, we showed you these two boats coming out of this first turn. This is the way they went in. A great start for Steve David, but here goes the Budweiser.
Budweiser with that great cornering ability. Steve David chasing them all the way. A second-place finish in 1C.
After being voted Rookie of the Year in unlimited hydroplane racing in 1988, Steve David has 3 victories, a lot of trips to the podium, still holds a couple of course records, and now we're hearing talk this may be a farewell tour. What's going on?
It is, Steve. It's a tough decision because I've been racing, 25 years overall and a lot of years with the Jim Harvey program. But next summer, we're going to enjoy our new Black Thunder pleasure boat and our new home, and Sabrina and I are just going to spend some time doing some other things, I think, sometimes together away from racing. It's going to be hard because I've been doing it my whole life, but we're going to, I think, enjoy each other, and I'll still help out and volunteer everywhere I can with racing, but we'll be doing some other things next summer.
And Steve's a great guy. Easy to say that he certainly will be missed on the Hydros Tour. Another great start. He's still in the boat. Let's not write him off just yet. A great start in Heat 2, just like in Heat 1. The bad news is he's racing against Miss Bud again.
And he's in the same position outside the Miss Budweiser. But look at the rest of the field. Steve David is able to beat everybody but the Bud and the Pico, so he's come along this season.
A replay of Heat 1 and Heat 2. Steve David finishes second to the Miss Budweiser. And when you talk to Steve or anyone on the Jim Harvey Motorsports crew, Steve, they'll tell you that this black boat is all maxed out. They can't make any real improvements to it, so they're in good shape going into Heat 3.
Appy and Geronimo crew chief John Walters hopes he is getting close now to bringing his boat up to the performance level it had in 1998, when it ran very close to Budweiser numbers in qualifying and in competition. He's confident his motors are okay after a lot of work over the winter on the dyno up in the team's Seattle shop. The answer may be way at the back of the boat. Part of a weight reduction program trying to pick up a couple of miles per hour may have upset the balance of the boat. The fiberglass cowling and the wings way at the back are lighter this year than they were last year. That may be making the boat ride a little heavy on the nose and scraping off those valuable miles per hour. They've been moving some weight around here, hoping to get back to that 1998 performance level.
In Heat 1, Steve, they showed a little of that promise that they'd showed in years past. Appy and Geronimo out to an early lead.
Looking better, perhaps, but still. Look at Nate Brown in the yellow Lumar boat. Running like he did last year, Mitch Evans would have run away from Nate Brown. An interesting point right here. Now watch the Appian push the yellow boat out just a little bit. The officials actually fining Mitch $500 for taking Nate out to the edge of the course there.
But that monetary fine does not affect the place in the race for Mitch Evans. He still maintains his lead over the Lumar and goes on to cross the start-finish line with the win in Heat 1A for the U20 Appy and Geronimo. As they say in sports, a win is a win, and Appy and Geronimo will take a win any way they can get it, despite being fined the $500. They're happy with the way the boat ran and just happy that they got a win in the 99 Hydro season. Mitch Evans telling me a little after the race that they are going to try and go faster, not resting on their laurels. They're going to change out the prop, put a bigger one on the water for Heat 2.
And this was the scene in the second heat. The leader, the white boat, is Greg Hopp. Mitch Evans and the Appian Geronimo just coming into your picture right there.
Appian in second place in Heat 2. After winning Heat 1, they'll take a first and a second place finish, and that's just what they're going to get.
Only 4 boats will be in the front row of the final heat here on this tight Ohio River race course. With a first and a second right now, things looking pretty good for Mitch and the Appian Geronimo. Picking up 300 points for a second place finish in Heat 2C.
Some routine maintenance going on for the Appy and Geronimo driver. Mitch Evans driving it to a first and a second place finish so far in the day. So things looking real good for Heat 3 and for the finals. If they get a frontline start in Heat 3, you could pretty much expect to see Appy and Geronimo heading into the finals.
The last time we saw Greg Hopp and crew, they were scurrying to the airport in Evansville to catch planes back to Seattle, where they got in about 36 hours this week at the Boeing plant up in Everett. Then they met the boat here in Madison for their 4th event of 1999. It's been a great season for them. They're 3rd in national high points with 2 third places and a 4th. Obviously, Greg and crew lead the voting right now for Rookie of the Year.
Greg telling us that he'll take seconds and thirds when he's racing against the Miss Pico or the Miss Budweiser. In Heat 1, he's racing against the Miss Pico, and he is in 2nd place.
Important that he stays ahead of boats like Mike Hansen, the other white boat there, the U9. Again, trying to amass enough points to make it into that very small front row in the final heat. Right here, Hansen coming up and giving him a pretty good boat race.
And I think Greg was a little surprised with that, but he did hold off Mike Hansen to finish 2nd in Heat 1B. 2nd place finishes have been pretty normal for Greg Hopp and Jerry Hopp and what's now the Miss Marion boat here in Madison. They've been running strong all season. Another strong start to the day in Heat 1B, and now they're going to be making a change. They're changing the engine from Heat 1 to Heat 2. Jerry Hopp telling me that if this engine runs well like they expect it to, they're going to keep it in for the rest of the day.
In the 2nd heat, Greg Hopp, that's the white boat on the right side of your picture, sponsored by the Marianne Travel Inn, which is nearby. Great start for Greg, a nice lead over the Appian Geronimo and the piston-powered Master Tire.
Greg Hopp averaged 130.8 miles an hour in Heat 1. In this heat, he's averaging 140.7, so getting the RPMs up there and looking good as he extends his lead over the Appian.
The winner of Heat 2C, Greg Hopp, our candidate for Rookie of the Year.
Greg, about the 2-minute mark, you were floating down under the bridge. It didn't look so good. Then you come back and win the heat.
Yeah, it's amazing the way things happen. Sometimes bad things turn into good things, you know. I got a shot of water down the snorkel over there and killed the motor, and it couldn't have worked out better timing-wise. I mean, it was a great start from there, so. And then it was just a matter of keeping it on the water going around the race course.
We told you earlier between Heats 1 and 2 that Hopp Racing was changing out their engines between that heat to see if they could get a better run in the 2nd heat. Lo and behold, they not only got a better run, they got a win in Heat 2C. That means that they're going to have a real good starting position for Heat 3. That also means that they'll have a great shot at making the finals. Talking to Greg Hopp afterwards, he said this boat can't run any faster than it did in Heat 2, so look for more of the same in Heat 3. Heat 3B's coming up. Greg Hopp's in it. He's going up against that man, Mitch Evans, as well as Steve David, Nate Brown, and Mike Weber. Heat 3B coverage coming up next on ESPN Speed World.
Miss Budweiser not drawn into Heat 3B of the Jasper, Indiana Governor's Cup, so they're on the trailer, as is the Miss Pico, and that's exactly where you'd like to have those 2 boats if you are Greg Hopp in the Marianne Travel or Mitch Evans in the Appian Geronimo, Steve David in the Harvey Motorsports entry, and Nate Brown in the Lumar window film. They'll be joined by the piston-powered Master Tire, driven by Mike Weber. As we start Heat 3B, Rich, no Bud, no Pico, could be a very good race.
It should make for a wide open field when you consider who's in this heat. Steve David, 2 second-place finishes. Greg Hopp, a 1st and a 2nd. Appian Geronimo, a 1st and a 2nd. And there's Greg Hopp in the white boat from the O'Doul's Eye in the Sky. You see him take the early lead.
Making a great start. Had his nose right on the line, right on time. A lot of speed behind him. The Appian Geronimo, Steve David in the Harvey Motorsports, and Nate Brown in the yellow Lumar. A good, quick boat, but he's way on the outside.
And Steve, early on, all the boats chasing the white boat. Hopp Racing and Greg Hopp, the Marianne Travel boat, doing a great job of cornering in that first turn and adding to its lead.
But look at the top of your picture. 4 boats, really, in one rooster tail. And here they come under the bridge. Good close racing. Greg Hopp getting a great boat ride out of his Leland hull, being chased by another one, and that's the Appian Geronimo. Steve David also right in that rooster tail in Jim Harvey's boat. Nate Brown running 4th right now in the yellow Lumar as they come through the turn. And imagine, Rich, that you're Steve David. You come around that wall of water, and here's a big cement pillar right in front of you. That's got to be scary.
This is turning into a tight race, although Greg Hopp is extending his lead about a rooster tail and a half. It's Steve David in 2nd, and you see it from our O'Doul's Eye in the Sky. David in 2nd. It's the Appian that has an inside lane, but right now trailing in 3rd.
We saw Mitch Evans thinking about going inside the wake of Greg Hopp. That would give him an advantage over the black boat driven by Steve David.
Another great aerial view of the Ohio River in Madison, Indiana, and Jasper is always a big part of this race.
Last weekend, the Hydros raced in Evansville, Indiana, then packed up for the trip about 200 miles up the Ohio to Madison. But on the way, most of the fleet made a stop in Jasper, Indiana, home of Jasper Engines and Transmissions, sponsors of the Madison Regatta. It gave the local folks a chance to see the big boats up close and personal, and the hydroplane owners and drivers and crews got to see the Jasper operation. Many of them, of course, motorheads, quite intrigued with Jasper's 8.5 acres under one roof building in Jasper. Doug Bobble is the president of Jasper. And Doug, this is really a case of one southern Indiana town helping out another one.
Well, absolutely, Steve, and helping out the entire series. The Unlimited Hydroplane Series, I really feel, is tremendously growing right now, and it was the right thing to do. Not only is this great for Madison, but for Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. And we at Jasper are just very proud to be a part of it. We're going to be entertaining some over 200 customers today, and just looking forward to it.
So it's the Jasper Engines and Transmissions Indiana Governor's Cup here in Madison.
And Steve, what a great race this is turning out to be. Greg Hopp maintaining his lead throughout the race, but behind him is some real interesting stuff. And we saw just before Nate Brown and Mitch Evans going at it.
Great racing, especially back in 3rd and 4th place there. That's Nate Brown and Mitch Evans. Up ahead of them is Greg Hopp leading this heat in a boat that his dad, Jerry, has leased from Fred Leland, who we said earlier. It's a sister ship to the Appian Geronimo and, of course, to the Miss Pico. The volunteer crew, buddies of Greg's, they all work together at Boeing up in Seattle. These kids having the time of their lives going unlimited hydroplane racing for the summer.
And Steve, if you want to see an animated crew, there's none more animated than the Hopp Racing crew. They are always fired up on the docks, especially when Greg Hopp wins, which he does in Heat 3B.
Sponsored by the nearby Marianne Travel Inn. Marianne here having a very good time as well, and a nice heat victory for that team.
In second place, it's going to be Steve David, who held off the rest of the field to finish with his 3rd second place finish in 3B.
The results of Heat 3B, the top 4 boats listed have won spots in the final heat, where they will race Miss Budweiser, driven by Dave Villwock.
3 for 3 in Madison, Indiana for Dave Villwock. You're going into the finals. Is it steady as she goes again?
We're just going to keep trying. You know, every single heat is so difficult here. You know, you just never know what's going to happen. And the final's going to be tough. All the 4 top guys are going to be slugging it out for the front row. And there's not much territory there. You know, there's a pretty small infield, so it's going to be bump and grind, I think, for the select lanes. We'll see who wins.
One of the drivers that's been driving very well so far and will be chasing Miss Budweiser is rookie Greg Hopp.
Greg, I agree with the crew. That was impressive. You beat some fast boats and some good drivers right there.
Oh, man. What a race that was, huh? Holy mackerel.
Was that your best heat of the year so far?
I would think so, yeah. Yeah, that's boy, that's some rough water out there. You get 5 boats out there all churning it up, and yeah. Woo, boy.
And you kept Steve David and Mitch and some very fast people behind you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a surprise to me. You know, I mean, they're every bit as fast as we are, if not faster. And just taming the river out there.
Chip Hanauer, you got a taste of Villwock in Heat 3. Now you're going into the finals. How do you feel about your chances?
Well, he's awfully fast again, but we've shown earlier in the year that with a few breaks, we can get out in front, and I think maybe we get out in front, we can hold him off.
Tough field with the conditions, the weather, all the boats running well.
Yeah, you know, it used to be if you didn't win, there was no honor and anything else, but there's a lot of boats running well here, and we'd feel good to be 2nd or 3rd even.
The Unlimited Lights are on the water now, ready for their final heat. Another one of those matchups between Bo Scheid in the Alamo and Charlie Wiggins in his Earl's Performance boat. It's been very close between these two. Now the battle for lane selection and being on time at the start are going to be critical here. When we come back, we will have the start of the Unlimited Lights final.
Welcome back to Madison, Indiana, and ESPN Speed World's coverage of Ralph's Thunder Tour presented by Las Vegas. The Unlimited Light Final is on the water and running, and as you just saw, the Unlimited Light, Steve, differ from the Unlimiteds because they don't go under the bridge twice. They are right before the bridge. This year, it's been a battle between Bo Scheid and Charlie Wiggins.
And Bo Scheid has the inside. Not only does he have lane one, he has two good quick boats between himself and Charlie. Remember, Wiggins has won all three matchups so far this year. We go on board with Bo in the Alamo, right where he wants to be, on the inside and out front.
And Steve, that really gives you a good idea how rough this water is, especially with these smaller boats. Right now, there's a good look at the Alamo on the inside, but there's the Pocket Mechanic on the outside giving him a run for his money.
Phil Bonancini in the red boat looking pretty good, but we already have word from the judges' stand that Phil jumped the gun, so he is back a lap. Looking pretty good, though, as he races right beside Bo Scheid in the Alamo.
And it's kind of weird so far this season to not see Charlie Wiggins in your picture with your leaders. I think we just saw him come around on the back end, the left side of your screen. But right now, on board with the Alamo, he does not see any boat in front of him. That means that he's got the lead. And there comes Charlie Wiggins, picking up some speed around the front turn. And as we go into the turn, trying to make some room in between himself and the Pocket Mechanic and move into second place. But right now, it's 1, 2, 3, Alamo, Pocket Mechanic, and Earl's Performance.
Now remember, the red boat did jump the gun. He is back a lap, even though he's running in second place on the water. But more importantly, he is another obstacle which Charlie Wiggins has to negotiate if he's going to catch up to the Alamo that we see right here. This is a view from the roof of the boat, and this is a scene that Bo hadn't seen previously in final heats. Nobody in front of him.
And a real shame for Phil Bonancini, the Pocket Mechanic, running very well, but obviously not in second place because of the bad start.
The checkered flag for the first time in a final heat in 1999 for Bo Scheid, driving Ned Allen's Alamo out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Rich is with Mitch Evans.
Some might say this is the best day of the 99 season so far for Mitch Evans and Appy and Geronimo. You feeling good about going into the finals?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've continued to make a lot of changes, and the boat's gotten better and better and better. So we're down to really fine-tuning the thing and trying to get some handling out of it. And we've come a long ways. We got a ways to go, but we're definitely feeling better about it.
All right, good luck. Thank you.
Good job, Bo. Come here, boy.
I imagine after what you've been through, Bo, that one feels pretty good, huh?
I'll tell you, this Alamo team, we never give up. We had a little bit of bad luck starting off. We were running good, and we'd not run a heat, win a heat, not run a heat, win a heat, and we got back on track in Evansville, and we got 3 out of 3 in the final. So this team doesn't give up. We're going to give them heck the rest of the year.
The Unlimited Lights final is in the book. We still have the Unlimiteds coming up next.
The movie will be called Madison, the story of the 1971 Gold Cup, and part of it being filmed here at the Jasper Engines Indiana Governor's Cup. As one of the vintage boats goes in the water, the Dr. Ken Muscatel losing a beard he's had since 1972. 3 of the vintage boats here on the water this weekend. This a replica of an old Miss Budweiser. The star of the show is this boat. It's a replica of the 71 Miss Madison. And speaking of stars, Rich is with young Jake Lloyd of Star Wars Phantom Menace fame. Jake, one of the stars of the movie Madison.
Earlier, we told you about the movie they're making on the Ohio River here in Madison, Indiana. One of those stars is with us now, Jake Lloyd. We all know you from the Phantom Menace, but now you're starring in a movie about hydroplane boats. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, it's about Madison, Indiana, and it's about the Gold Cup win in '71. I play young Mike McCormick, who nowadays is probably the best darn racer there is of the 5 liters.
And what about these hydroplanes? This is your first time out here seeing them. Pretty exciting, huh?
Oh, yes. It's probably the best sport I've seen because it's so fast and, you know, and it's so nice. First time you come, you see the 71 boats, which are the loudest things you've ever heard. And they're so unique and so cool, and they're just extremely fun to take rides in, which I'm going to actually do later on today. So.
All right, well, enjoy the rest of the day, and we look forward to seeing the movie come out.
Yeah, you too.
Today's Alamo Almanac is brought to you by Alamo Rent-A-Car.
Hydroplane fans across the country, and especially here in Madison, mourning the loss of the driver you see pictured here with Bernie Little. Jim Kropfeld, shown winning the '89 Exxon Blastoff and one of his most popular victories in 1988, right here on a race course he loved in Madison, Indiana. Jim Kropfeld won 22 races for the Budweiser team, 3 national championships, recently lost a battle with brain cancer. Jim Kropfeld will be missed.
We are all set for the grand finale on the Ohio River, the unlimited final from the Jasper Engine and Transmissions Indiana Governor's Cup.
Coming under the bridge for the run down to start finish, and you see the Budweiser, the Pico, is off to his left. A big story there, Rich, as Chip Hanauer is going to have the inside. Here's the start. They're a little late, actually. A legal start. Jim Harvey's boat. Steve David making a great start on the outside.
From the O'Doul's eye in the sky, you see the Pico in front. There's Budweiser second, and there's Greg Hopp in third.
Where the Budweiser's in trouble. Oh, we have a crash.
The Budweiser is overturned underwater. Unbelievable what happened. It looked like he ran into Hopp's rooster tail.
That's exactly what happened, Rich. The Budweiser thundering into that turn somewhere between 190 and 200 miles per hour. Dave Villwock trying to hold his lane. Now watch him. The red boat, he's back a little bit, not in great position. He'll slide to the right just a little bit now and get into the skid fin rooster tail off of Greg Hopp's boat. The tremendous hydraulic pressure picks him up, turns him over.
A lot of damage to the Miss Budweiser boat as it goes upside down. Steve's on the docks with Bernie Little.
Bernie, I know it's not the way you wanted this final heat to go. The good news is that Dave apparently has climbed out on his own. That's good news.
Oh, that's excellent news. Dave's a lot more important than the winning the race, but that would have had to have been a great race, and we're just sorry we can't participate now in the final here in Madison, Indiana. But one thing about it, Dave's a hard driver, and he knew what he was doing and knew what he was going for, and he's going to win.
We have word he's walking around on the back of the boat, and that's real good news.
Yeah, that really is. But the speed he had to be going into that turn, that's excellent news.
The drama continues. We'll restart the Unlimited's final coming up next. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Jasper Indiana Governor's Cup has been brought to you by Las Vegas. Anything can happen, and usually does when it comes to special events. By Ralph's First and Savings First in Southern California. And by O'Doul's Non-Alcoholic Brew. It's what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer. Rich Hollenberg and Steve Montgomery from Madison, Indiana, and the Ohio River. We are restarting the final. It's deja vu all over again, Steve, but this time without Dave Villwock.
No Miss Budweiser in the final heat, so the favorite has to become Chip Hanauer. And as you can see, he has the inside. He's back there in the rooster tails, but a lot of boat speed beside him. Greg Hopp, Steve David, Mitch Evans, and the Appian Geronimo are all ahead of Chip at the start. It's a good start, Rich.
And look at Steve David burning ahead with the hammer down. The Appian on the outside in second place. Our O'Doul's eye in the sky catches Chip Hanauer with a terrific cornering job going into turn one, and he has the lead.
We saw Chip Hanauer wisely laying back a little bit conservative at the start, knowing he didn't have to win this race right at the start with no Budweiser, but he could lose it there if he got his nose over the line too soon. Right now, Steve David's the leader up the backstretch.
And look at Chip Hanauer, though, laying it down and catching up on the straightaway. Looks like he's going to pass Steve David. David doing a great job of getting out in front of him after that great turn by Hanauer. But right now, it's Chip Hanauer going into the second turn under the bridge, regaining the lead.
You saw Nate Brown just getting underway. He had some problems with the Lumar before the start. I called it a good start. The officials tell me I was wrong. Steve David in the black boat, Jim Harvey Motorsports, actually over the line. Way in the left of the picture, we saw Greg Hopp's boat going down as he got into a rooster tail.
And that's unfortunate for Steve David. We saw that happen to Phil Bonancini in the Unlimited Lights final. Looked like a great start, challenging for the lead. Lo and behold, you jump the start, and you're all the way back in the pack.
Now look at Nate Brown. He's having fun out here racing with Chip Hanauer, but he's back a lap. He did not start with the rest of the boats, and the boat that appears to be running third is also back a lap because Steve David's been penalized, so Greg Hopp in the white boat coming through is actually running in second place.
We have good news to report. Dave Villwock is just getting back onto the docks, and we'll send Steve down to talk with him.
I'll talk to him. I'll say something.
Was it one of those spots you showed us on the tour, or did somebody get in the way?
No, everything was fine. Chip went out a little bit, and already Hopp was too close. Some team driving there, and I think, Chip moved out a little bit and got the boat in the air, and I went to the side a little bit, and then Hopp was already too close and pulling in, and so I went through his rooster tail out through the other way. So, but that's what happens. As I said before, some team driving, it looks on by my part, but I don't know what the referees will say.
You said you banged your knee a little bit, but you're okay.
Yeah, a lot better than last time.
Well, Well, Steve, these guys can laugh about it now, but it was pretty serious back in 1997 when Dave Villwock went upside down in Tri-Cities, lost 2 fingers off his right hand. Many surgeries later, he's obviously back and better than ever. But let's get back to the final now that's being run, and Chip Hanauer is indeed in first place.
On his way to perhaps his second victory of the year, and that will tie him with Dave Villwock.
There's a good shot of Nate Brown in the Lumar boat on the outside. Inside of him, that's Steve David in the Harvey Motorsports boat behind Miss Pico, but really just challenging for 4th place.
Steve David penalized the lap for jumping the gun. Nate Brown had trouble getting going, so they're both back a lap. Beautiful shot from our O'Doul's eye in the sky.
Now, earlier, Dave Villwock, after the crash, alluded to some team driving. He was referring to Fred Leland's team. Let's go straight to the horse's mouth with Steve.
The way Dave Villwock tells it, Chip moved out a little bit, and your other boat, the black and white one driven by Greg Hopp, moved in a little. He's talking team driving. Anything to that?
Not that I know about, but then Dave's a real crybaby, so we'll have to wait and see what the referee calls.
You didn't tell him to get together like that?
No, I didn't tell him anything.
That kind of verbal exchange indicative of the competitive nature between Miss Budweiser and Miss Pico.
And the beneficiary of the penalty to Steve David and the problems Nate Brown had in the Lumar, Mitch Evans. He's back a ways on the water, but he's running in second place here in Madison. And that team, Jerry Rise back in Seattle watching, they'll be very pleased with a second place finish behind your leader, Miss Pico and Chip Hanauer, if it ends this way.
We are now heading into the final turn of the final lap, and it looks good for Chip Hanauer. But Steve, his main competition once Dave Villwock was gone was Greg Hopp. What happened to him?
His boat was floating right up here in this end of the race course. And there he is, right in front of our picture. Greg Hopp, a DNF, a disappointing day to what had been a very, very nice start. But the checkered flag's going to fly for Chip Hanauer. This will be a big celebration.
Miss Pico, the U100 boat, owner Fred Leland, driver Chip Hanauer, your winner of the Jasper, Indiana Governor's Cup.
Hanauer and the Leland team pick up the big trophy, 400 points for their win in the final heat. The Budweiser, unable to run, gets a 0. That'll be a factor. And Mitch Evans going to be very happy with a second place finish in the Appian Geronimo.
A great day for Mitch Evans and the Appian. His second place finish in the final, the icing on the cake to what was a great day all around for him. Miss Pico wins it, followed by the Appian. The Lumar and Nate Brown, who was the trailer boat, ends up finishing in 3rd. Your overall standings after 4 events, Miss Budweiser continues to lead, but Miss Pico catching up just 600 points down.
Hey, Mark, pull him over here.
Here, Chip.
Way to go.
Hey, it's a win. In fact, it's 2 already this season. How did number 60 feel?
It's a relief going out knowing the day was okay. I've been there. I've been in the corner in the Budweiser upside down, and anything can happen. So it was great news that he was okay, and then it was back down to business and try and win, and it worked out great.
Now you go on to Detroit. You got some history there too, don't you?
You know what I hate about you media guys? You always want to talk about next week. I want to have fun this week. Detroit doesn't start till Thursday, and today isn't over till about 3 in the morning. Love you, Dad. Love you, Scott. Love you, Donna.
Way to go.
There's going to be some celebrating in the Miss Pico camp, but not for Miss Budweiser. They have a long week ahead of them getting ready for the APBA Gold Cup from Detroit, which is coming up next on the Hydros 99 Tour. Good show of sportsmanship by Dave Villwock, one of the people congratulating your winner, Chip Hanauer. We'll see you next week from Detroit. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of the Go Network, go.com.